Hello, my name is William James. I'm the host of the Board Book Geek, so this is a bonus video that I wanted to talk about this stuff. I briefly, in another video, covered Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, and instead of doing sort of a covering a game per game, I want to talk about my personal experiences and why Tomb Raider has been such a massive part of my life, to the point of insanity sometimes. So let's talk and let's be real. It's interesting looking back at the 90s. I think the video games industry was a far more interesting place in the 90s, and I think the push for realism and cinematic has kind of killed a lot of creativity. But that's the nature of the beast. But it's interesting going back to these games, and I sort of play them every few years, because I want to go back, I want to revisit that, and that magic, and the music. Yes, the controls can be a bit frustrating sometimes. Yes, they do show their age, but you know what, they're still fun, even with nostalgia goggles, but they're not forgiving games. They are hard in places, believe it or not, especially for first-time players. They are quite difficult, so be prepared. As many people will go, especially as the later ones go down. So, going into this, I remember, so Tomb Raider came out in 96, and I remember everyone talking about it. And for Christmas, 1996, I got Tomb Raider 1 on the Sega Saturn. Yes, I was that kid. I had a Sega Saturn. I still have my Sega Saturn, to be real with you. It's a great little machine. Modded to hell, and for some reason, not long after, I also ended up with Tomb Raider 1 on the PlayStation 1, though, which was a weird thing. I don't know how I ended up with both versions at the time, but there you go. And 97, obviously, Tomb Raider 2 came out, which was another game, so I was like 9, and I remember being blown away by these. The games I'd played up till then had either been pseudo 3D shooters, Doom, Wolfenstein, that kind of stuff, or 2D games, or top-down games, isometric games. Playing Tomb Raider was mind-blowing, the FMV video and all of this. And I remember like PlayStation Magazine and Games Master and all of these games magazines and Saturn Magazine and all of this stuff with these games, and being so excited when Tomb Raider 2 came out, and then Tomb Raider 3. So that trilogy of games really hits with the music, the setting, the nostalgia. I remember that going to the game shop in Thetford, where we used to live, and there used to be a little game shop called Game Zone in Thetford. And it's interesting, that's now long gone. That's long gone now. But it's interesting going back to that kind of memory, and that smell of that tiny little game shop that was a really cool little shop. And all the kids used to play Pokemon there and stuff. It was really nice. The guy that ran it had a major crush on my mother, just to put that one in. And I remember just those, and playing those games and getting to the end and being so blown away. And those games really started my love of history and mythology, and made me want to read that stuff, and you know, all of that stuff that I think as a kid you do. And then kind of as I got older, and this is where we got really interesting, is that I remember when Tomb Raider Last Revelation came out, and the hype surrounding that game was off the charts. I remember that, and it was such a surreal experience. And Last Revelation remains one of my favourite games. To this day, that will remain one of my favourite games. It's brilliantly written, it's cinematic, it's big, the puzzles are amazing. They really pushed that aging engine to its limits, and they created something that was special. And I always say this with people, even if you struggle with them, go back. Just go back. Go back and play them and see what happens. There is a sense of nostalgia, and nostalgia goggles blind me with these games. It came out around my birthday that year, my 12th birthday, and I remember me and my mother going to the brilliant little shop in Bury St Edmunds that was called Choices, because there were no game shop. It's kind of like a Blockbuster place, and we got stuck in Bury St Edmunds. And I always remember that because you got the master guide with it free, and I remember getting home and being too tired to play it because we didn't get home until about 10 o'clock because we missed the bus. And somehow I remember not long after getting that on Dreamcast as well. And I also had Tomb Raider Chronicles on Dreamcast because they came out roughly the same time on each. Chronicles is a game that I have many memories of, and I loved it still. But it's not my favourite Tomb Raider, although the music is good, and I love the Rome levels and the Black Isles. But those memories, those things, those places and those lines, and I remember that feeling of just innocence. It was fun. It was very fun. The next thing I remember is Angel of Darkness. So, Tomb Raider the Prophecy had come out on Game Boy, which was, I don't know if that was around the same time or just after, but that came out, and I remember playing that, and I had the GBC games as well. There's Tomb Raider on GBC, Game Boy Color, and they're good, by the way. They're side-scrollers, but they are good. And I just remember that moment, really, of being so excited for Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, and at the time being really disappointed. I forced myself to play through it because the game was broken on release, and this is before the era of updates and patches for lazy game developers. Things weren't finished, and there's a lot, the story behind it and everything that happened, and the sort of fallout and the end of core design, and and by chance, this is where we get really interesting. I travelled to Derby a lot, and a few years ago, I remember first we were walking down the street, and I saw Lara Croft Way, and there's a lot of Lara Croft in Derby. I want to put that one in there. There is a lot, and just I remember that place, and just I was like, why is this street so familiar? And then it clicked. I was like, oh my god. The core design building is there, and you can still see that building. I don't know if it's empty right now, but it's a lovely old building. But all those memories came back, and sort of being involved in the Tomb Raider fandom over the years has been an amazing experience. I've met some great people. I know some great people through it, and I've made a lot of very good friends through it. It's a really interesting little bubble. That's how I would describe it. It's a bubble. The Tomb Raider fandom is this bubble of great people and interesting people. And I always remember that. I had posters on my walls as a child. I had Tomb Raider art. I had Tomb Raider drawings. I just look back on it all and go, well, this happened and that happened, and those weird memories that I think we all have as children of something, and teenage years. And then there was no talk of Tomb Raider for a long time. Tomb Raider kind of vanished. Core design went, and at that point I think everyone really thought it was over, and then Tomb Raider Legend by Crystal got announced. And I remember tentatively going to buy that game because it came out on my it came out on the original Xbox, so I bought it on that. And I remember just thinking, oh my god. I own that game on everything, by the way, just because I love that game so much. I like Legend. It's short, but it was a nice, we're going to be safe and reinvent Tomb Raider. And Anniversary came out when I was in college, and that brought back all those memories, and hearing those musical cues, and the stuff from Tomb Raider 1 again made me want to go back and revisit, and I loved Underworld. I know, controversial, I do love Underworld. I wish it had more colour though. But in seriousness, just revisiting that era, and I think I've made it no secret that I don't particularly get on with the newer trilogy. I don't get on with the Survivor trilogy. I'm not a great lover of duck and cover shooters, and that's what they feel like to me. But those classic games, the Game Boy games, and the Legends Underworld trilogy, whatever it's called, are games that I will always go back to and hold memories of, and places and smells, and my bedroom and my blue iMac and my kryptonite green walls. You know, stupid stuff of being a child of the 90s and early noughties. And just happy memories. Silly stuff. And I do wonder why they seem to have forgot the 25th happened. Like, the Tomb Raider 25 stuff from the company, Crystal and Square Enix, has been very weak. So I do wonder what the hell is happening. And I think they haven't really mentioned Lara, which is really frustrating. It's like, where is she? You're putting all this stuff out. Where is she? She's important. And people forget how important Lara was. So, tell me what you think. What's your memories of the Tomb Raider franchise? What's that memory? What's that childhood or teenage or whatever memory that just makes you feel at home? And I also want to say, if you guys are interested in more content like this, tell me in the comments. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.